Start off with the big news today. As you know, Advance New Zealand, Jami-Lee Ross received a letter from the Speaker of the House in Parliament, Trevor Mallard, who's a Labour MP, demanding that we take down our vaccination video and footage, which is on our Advance New Zealand PP Facebook page. This is footage from Parliament's own TV. It's also footage that has just been marginally shortened so that it can fit on our Facebook page in the right way. Now, the way that that's done doesn't change or alter anything that Minister Wood says, and she clearly says that there is provisions within the legislation, and the legislation she's referring to is the COVID-19 Public Health Response Bill, and that is a provision to vaccinate returning New Zealanders through the border. But what we've also found since then is that MOH or Ministry of Health statements that say that at some point shortly, right, that we are going to be required to have verification that we've been vaccinated before we will be allowed to go back to work. Can you just understand that just quickly with me? I find it hard to comprehend. So they're saying that there's no such things as mandatory testing or vaccinations, and yet they're saying here that there is going to be a process whereby if you want to go to work, that you're going to need to verify that you've been vaccinated. Well, I'm sorry, that's mandatory vaccination. That's blackmail, isn't it? So anyway, so the Privileges Committee met today. We were, both Jami-Lee Ross and I were meant to, and planned to appear before this Privileges Committee. But what they did, they had a meeting behind closed doors. Jami-Lee, who was already on his way, Jami-Lee knew something was up because of the lack of information coming back. And he gets down to Wellington, and they'd had the meeting, and in that meeting they determined that they felt it was absolutely right for the Speaker of the House to, in our absence, by the way, in our absence, they came up with this determination. They determined that the Speaker of the House was correct in asking us to remove it. Well, we still reject it. We still reject that, and we're going to stay right where we are with it. We're not going to take it down because it is in the words and the voice of this very same minister. But what astounds me is that we are meant to have a democratic government here. We know that we don't. We know that. But today they had a kangaroo court that featured Winston Peters, Jerry Brownlee from National, and all of the other parliamentarians that felt it was okay to declare a determination without speaking to the people involved in it, so that we could answer the charges, answer the accusations, answer the claims made by this Privileges Committee. They chose not to follow a democratic and open and transparent process, and they blimmin' did it all behind closed doors. That's the government we've got. So what does it tell us? It tells us that Labour is not transparent and is crooked in terms of following the democratic process and a fair and transparent one. We know that Winston Peters and New Zealand First cannot be trusted. We know that National cannot be trusted. And I'm sorry, things have to change, don't they? So anyway, my colleague Jami-Lee Ross has issued a nationwide press release, so it's going to be interesting to see what sort of feedback we get from that, because I can assure you out there right now that this leftist media is extremely complicit and biased and not objective whatsoever. That leads me to objective media such as Dr. Rashid Buttar, who I had the complete honour of having an interview today that went for just over an hour, I believe, around about an hour, online, which is going to go out to millions of people. And it was a great privilege to have this time with Rashid, because he was a great influence on me way back in the early days when I was wondering whether I should post any comments about what I felt was happening with the COVID-19 response and where it could go. And I also leaned upon his inspiration and courage, which gave me the courage to talk about the United Nations agendas, Agenda 21 Sustainable Development and Agenda 2030, which Prime Minister Ardern has committed our country to and her government to fully implementing in our country, but she forgot to ask us, the people, because those those programs will destroy our freedoms here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and we've got a major problem with that. So it was wonderful to spend that time with Rashid Buttar. He's a very smart man, very clever man. He's got a huge audience, and he's offered that platform to us, which I'm deeply humbled by. Advanced New Zealanders going to the world, and that's wonderful to be a part of that. Now, detention centres, again, COVID-19 detention centres. Now, our sister Tupo and her children are still in detention after showing no signs of symptoms, after being tested with the thermometer and all sorts, and then offering to do blood tests and showing no signs of sickness, illness of any kind. This government is still holding on to this young lady and her children. And, you know, these are detention centres. Make no bones about it. These are centres that are designed to restrict your freedom and to make you comply, to diminish your personal sense of freedom, to diminish your personal sense of sovereignty, and they are there to force you to comply with their agenda, with their program. And we believe that it's unacceptable that a government can do this, especially when they are throwing out science, throwing it out the door. And what do I mean by that? Because now we have the as I keep saying, the WHO are now saying that lockdowns don't work. Our government doesn't agree with that. The government is, the WHO is now saying that the lethality of this disease is virtually the same as the winter flu virus. Our government won't accept that and won't modify its behaviour. These questions around the PCR test, of its veracity and accuracy and fit for purpose use for testing for coronavirus 19. Our government won't open the gate to looking at this. Masks, of course, have still got huge question marks over the usage of those and what they do to us. So what we've got to realise here is that, you know, these are fair and reasonable questions that emanate out of these issues that we need to ask and we need to have answered. But what happens is this government, through its complicit media, is saying to people like myself and Jami-Lee Ross that if we ask these questions that we're controversial, that we're conspiracy theorists. Well, I'm sorry, there is no conspiracy theory about people being distressed enough in these COVID-19 detention centres to consider escaping them, just like that poor mother did a few weeks ago when she came from Australia, got tested negative and wanted to go and take her children to see the body of their dead dad. And that lady got sentenced to 14 days jail. I cannot believe I'm saying that here in Free New Zealand. So that's what's happening with that. And, you know, and then of course the government changes its mind and says that no, it didn't say it was going to force test Māori and Pacific Island communities in West and South Auckland, and that it was a PR mistake. Well, sorry, a PR mistake is one thing, but when it's splashed in 4 different areas on the internet by the government, that's not a mistake, that's a planned announcement. Okay, and so Jacinda Ardern thinks that she can just stand up on a press conference and just smile and wave and tell everyone to be kind, and that it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. It does matter, and it does matter when Ashley Bloomfield says there's a COVID-19 breakout at Pakuranga College and no such thing happens. And it distresses the public and causes a panic at that school. So it does matter, all this stuff, because we rely on the government. They're failing miserably in their management of it. They're failing miserably in their strategy around trying to protect our community with a test that's not fit for purpose and has questions around its veracity and accuracy. So we need to hold this government accountable. And on the way home tonight, driving from town, I was absolutely astounded to hear this lady talking on Magic Talkback with an on-air journo who's not, in my view, not the smartest, but that's okay. She does her best. But anyway, and she was saying, well, you know, it really doesn't matter about the failings of this government because Jacinda Ardern says, let's just be kind, so that makes it all okay. It doesn't make it okay, whānau. It doesn't make it okay to throw it away like that, because as Jacinda Ardern is saying for everyone to be kind, she's displaying the least kindness, the least compassion, the most ruthlessness, the most lack of caring, by treating people like we're just muck. So I'm sorry, Jacinda Ardern, you cannot remain in government. You need to be voted out. You need to leave and allow that will serve the people, not have a government demand that the people serve it, because this government is no longer treating this COVID-19 situation based on science and fact. It's not doing that, and that's well proven, guys. We know this now, but it is destroying the economy. That's no conjecture. It is distressing people. It is causing people to consider taking extreme measures. And so our job at Advance New Zealand is to make sure that we provide the real option for you guys out there to put your vote into a party that has got the best chance ever for us to reset things in this government system that we've got there. Because what are we going to do? Are we just going to go red? Are we just going to go blue? Or do you want a marginal minor party to take your vote and have it be wasted that has no chance of crossing the 5% threshold to get into Parliament? And I'm sorry if I'm sounding brutal now, but we are running out of time, family, and we need to make our decisions, and we need to come together as one unit and show the rest of the world that New Zealanders do care very deeply about our freedoms, and we are prepared to stand up for them, and we do want to reset, and we do want an honest government in place, one that doesn't serve corporations, one that doesn't serve international interests, international groups like the United Nations, one that is a instrument to serve the New Zealand people of all backgrounds. And that's what we need in there. And believe me, folks, this is the election that it's all coming down to, and we need to act, and we need to make sure that we understand what the issues are, because I don't really think that we've got a chance ever again like we have now to actually bring about that change. Now is the time. Right, guys, I've got a wife that's very quietly giving me the cold shoulder, telling me that dinner's Kai is just about ready here. But I really just want to just to say thank you to everyone. Please keep sharing our messages. We need the shares. Don't forget that we've got a rally in 2 weeks. Yes, that's right. It is called the National Rally for Freedom, because we are going to do our own special Kiwi version of the protests that they've had in Berlin, the protests that they've had in Ireland, the protests that they've had in Canada and the US, because there are plenty of peaceful, good, point-making and point-underlying protests, and we are going to do it, whānau. We're going to do it. Advance New Zealand is going to have this freedoms rally, and we're going to do it, and we're going to send a clear message to the government. Your time is up. It's time to leave Parliament. A new government is going to be in, and Advance New Zealand is going to lead the way back to democracy. So, family, thank you for your continued support. It means the world to us, both to Jami-Lee Ross and I, and to all of the many wonderful candidates that are in our party that are working so hard to serve you out there. And I really do hope that I am this movement's greatest servant. That's my role. So, everyone, take care. Keep an eye out on things. I've got to ring some people in detention centres now and find out what's going on, and keep those people in your prayers as well. Yes, Advance New Zealand, your voice, because we do say the things that people don't like, your power, because you give us the mandate and authority, and your movement and your party, because this is yours. It's not mine, it's not the candidates, this is everyone's movement. It's your movement. God bless, have a great night, and take care. I'll see you soon. Kia ora.